Hello, welcome to Let's Talk About Emotions. I'm Anshin Texter, licensed DI trainer and consultant and a teacher at Empathy Academy. And this is Amanda Ball, also a licensed DI trainer and consultant, lead instructor at Empathy Academy. She's also, a clinical mental health counselor. And
A
she,
mouthful.
it is a mouthful. I know, I had to look at my notes. What am I doing? And then she also works at a school in with teenagers and applying DEI work to working with teenagers, which uh, wow, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about distractions, and distractions are pretty much anything you do to distract yourself from what you're feeling. In this
Mhm.
context, we're going to use that as our definition.
Yes.
So a distraction can be something like binging a show on Netflix or reading novel after novel on your phone, just so long as you don't have to pay attention to what's in front of you. Or it could be having a glass or two of wine at night, or it could be going shopping, like doing lots of online shopping maybe, or I don't know, disappearing into listening to like the rabbit hole of music, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, there's a new Bob Dylan song, and then that reminded me of this one here, and then I got my old record collection out. And
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about today is kind of like the benefits of distractions, what it can look like, what it can feel like, and then also the pitfalls of, maybe when you're distracting too much. So let's talk about what distractions do for you first. Like in terms of like Carla's work, what are the gifts of distractions?
I like to think of distractions as oftentimes a much needed break from, a situation where, maybe there's intense emotions or you're confused or, you just I need a break from this. And so you need to step away. Um, yeah, that's how the benefits that I see to distractions. Now, of course, the types of distractions that we choose, some can be more or less helpful than others. And that's something that I sort of delve deeper into my concept of distractions.
I want to get into that in just a second. One thing I want to mention is that distraction, going into distraction doesn't have to be like a long process. It can be a very quick dip in and
Mhm.
out. And that's what our phones are really great for. Like say for example, you're at a family dinner and you're like, this is so awkward. I just need a break. Right. And then you start playing words with friends on your phone under the table or something. Like it's just a break. And you need an emotional break or
Mhm.
cognitive break, something. And it helps you gain perspective, like Amanda was saying.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely one of the benefits. And we use distractions all the time. I want to highlight this. It's not a bad thing. They're great.
Right.
They're so wonderful.
And necessary, very important and necessary.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
cognitive break. Like when you are in confusion, right? Your brain's kind of like, I'm not sure what's going on. And then using a distraction can give you perspective. It can just give you a mental breather from what you're experiencing, right? Kind of like maybe an intense emotion around something or multiple emotions around something. And then it might even give you new insight when you come back. So, for example, when I am distracting, I will often turn to novels and I will often choose reading material that relates to the thing that I'm kind of struggling with, feeling into, not sure what I want to feel around this thing. And sometimes it will give me insights and perspective I hadn't considered before because
Yeah.
and novels are very empathic often, right? They help me gain perspective. They give me the emotional perspective of a different human being, right? And that can be tremendously helpful for me because I tend to get really focused on where I'm at.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point there too. One of the things when I look at my own distractions or when I'm helping other people understand their distractions, sometimes it can be people can feel like they're in a place where they're stuck or their distractions aren't helping them. And so one of the things we look at is after you've done your distraction practice, whatever it is, do you feel, rejuvenated or more resourced to be able to go back to the situation that you were distracting yourself from? Or do you feel like more drained and, less motivated? So I really like your example of the novel because after you read the novels, you have oftentimes it seems you have a better perspective on the thing that you were distracting yourself from, right? Do you see what I'm
Oh
saying there? Yeah. So,
yeah, you make a really good point. And I think that sometimes your shame can be a good emotion to listen to around your distractions if your contracts
hmm
are up to date around your distractions. So, what I mean by that is if you have realistic expectations of yourself around using distractions, where it's okay. Oh, I know that I need a break. I know that I've been feeling a lot of intense emotions, and this Jones I have to read an entire novel in one sitting, that's okay. I'm going to allow myself to do that. It's going to be good for me, right? Or I'm going to take a confusion break and go have a nap. Whatever it might be that feels good for you, paying attention to your shame. Oftentimes, your shame will maybe pat you on the back, even saying, "Yeah, you deserve a break. You need that." Or your contentment will give you like a little nudge, saying, "Hey, good job listening to yourself. That was just too much, and you needed to take some time, and this is what your body needs." But
hmm
your shame may also come forward and say, you've been watching Netflix for 2 days now, and there's a lot of dishes left in the sink, and you haven't returned any texts, and what are you avoiding? What's going
have you
on?
been to have you been to my house recently? How do you know this?
Well, it just it's a nudge. And obviously it's a common experience.
I really like that you just said the word avoid because as you were talking, I was like, there's distractions that we can use as a break. And then there's like ways we can use distractions as avoidance, as avoiding an emotion or a situation that's bringing up an emotion that whatever we might not have the skills or awareness or energy to work with more directly. So that's interesting. I like avoidance here. That's another way to tell if your distractions are working well for you or if they need a little adjustment.
Yeah. And I want to bring up the point that distractions can actually be incredibly valuable for you um, as a protective mechanism in case something comes up that you're just not ready to deal with.
Mhm.
Right? Whether you don't feel equipped emotionally to deal with what's coming up for you. Maybe it relates back to trauma in your past history. Maybe it like dealing with what's coming up. It might be feel like it's a threat to your sense of identity, who you are and what's important to you. So all of those things are really good reasons to have distraction or like resistance behaviors.
Mhm.
I'm a big experiencer of resistance behaviors. And a lot of those can be traced back to outdated contracts, but
Mhm.
also traced back to that sense of um, frozen fear or panic, some kind of trauma in the past that's been frozen or that is being held
Mhm.
until you have the space and the support to sit with it and let it thaw.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's a good point about, distractions sometimes being related to trauma in the past. And I also think that they can be a response to current traumas, especially now in this time of worldwide uncertainty and, upheaval. And distractions are so important right now to help us get through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much going on, and people are being stretched. I mean, no matter what
hmm
they're asked to do, They're being stretched.
Yeah. 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 So distract yourself.
Okay. So I want to talk more about um, distractions during a pandemic. We're in this pandemic. We are we're being thrown a lot of uncertainty, right? And whether you are unemployed and not working, or whether you are full-time employed, or you have children at home, dear God, or you are an essential worker, you're a healthcare worker, you are putting your life on the line, distractions are your friend. They are going to help you get through this when you are being bombarded by new information all the time, conflicting information, and when you don't necessarily have the emotional bandwidth to deal with it, right? Like you're already trying to survive.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, distractions are great, and different people distract different ways. I know somebody who decided to clean out her pantry and her fridge. I was like, okay, that's what you're gonna do. Great. And some of our distraction behaviors are more quote unquote productive than others. Although that's so subjective. Let's be real here. But I just want to say
Yeah.
it's completely normal to be distracting right now, because there isn't really a normal. I mean, things are changing all the time, and considering the way that the United States is handling the pandemic, who knows when we're going to return to a semblance of normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And distractions are what will get us through it, keep us going.
They are. Yeah, it's almost like they're going to help us deal with our emotions on the basis that we are capable of doing it.
Hmm.
One thing I wanted to bring forward, or maybe offer, is some skills to help us deal with our emotions once we are ready to kind of face distractions. Say, oh, okay, I see that I'm distracting here. I see that I am distracting myself away from an emotion, but what do I do next if I want to take a look at what I'm feeling?
Yeah. There's a lot, of course, in DEI. There's a lot, I would say all of the practices that we teach, but um, a few sort of basic ones that come to mind, I think you had mentioned earlier, is grounding yourself, you know, bringing yourself back to here. Here. Um, and setting your boundaries. What's mine and what isn't, especially around the distraction practice, right? If you're looking to change it, setting your boundaries to figure out what you want to keep in your boundary versus what you want out of it now. Um, right, and so that's really important around distractions, especially when we decide that yeah, maybe it's not helping us as much as we want it to, and we want to either change it or get rid of it altogether. Yeah. So I would start with grounding and boundary setting.
Yeah, and you can go to is it Carla McLaren on YouTube? She has a ton of great videos about getting grounded and defining your boundaries. She will lead you through the practices. They are fabulous, and she gives so much information. So she's a totally great resource
Mm-hmm.
for those two practices. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say another one that can be really helpful is just the emotional vocabulary list, where you look at the list. I'm looking around. I have one right here.
I think I do too. Yay.
You just take a look at this list, and you can get this handout for free on my website, emotionalliance.com. And essentially what you do is each emotion kind of category is uh, divided into 3 sections. So there's mild, medium, and intense state emotions. So for example, um, we'll look at the sadness, grief, and depression one. If you are feeling soft state sadness, then you might notice that you're feeling kind of disconnected or distracted, grounded, steady, regretful, listless, right. Mood state, you might notice that you're feeling discouraged, dispirited, gloomy, heavy-hearted, maybe just sad. And then intense sadness, and you might notice that you're feeling more anguished or bleak, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
depressed, hopeless, morose.
Mm-hmm.
Though being able to label what you're feeling is a huge step towards knowing what to do next. When you're able
Mm-hmm.
to name what you're feeling, it doesn't have to be, I'm feeling mood state sadness or I'm feeling depressed. That can be enough for your body to know what to do next, for your mind to say, oh, if I'm depressed, then that usually means that I've been, for me, trying to do too much and I need a break. I just need to sit down and
Mm-hmm.
take a break, take a breather, distract myself.
Yeah. Yeah, relax and and that's with really, with any of the emotions. You can look at the vocabulary list and figure out where you're at, and ask the question for the emotion that you're in, and yeah, take that action.
Exactly. Yeah. So once you're able to name what you're feeling, oftentimes you'll inherently know what you need to do. And if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
then there's lots of other things you can do. One of which is take a course at Empathy Academy.
Yes, Anshin has many courses at Empathy Academy, as do other instructors. Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of my favorite things is to help people connect how am I feeling with what do I do next, right? Being able to identify how am I feeling to what's my action? How do I move forward with this in a constructive way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So distractions,
Yay.
they're so great. They're
They're your friend.
they're so awesome. They're totally
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
They're your friend, and you have choices around them. They don't need to bully you.
Exactly. Yes. They don't have to be something where you are ashamed of yourself for. Like it's just we all do it. Let's put that down as like the basis. Just like the first key of emotional genius. We all have emotions. We all do distracting behaviors.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's great. They're good for us. They help us. Like we are humans because of our destructive behaviors, with our distraction behaviors.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for joining me.